Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, you're waking up. That's good. That's good. Welcome to BTBJ. I'm Rabbi Roni Handler, and this is Cantor Benjamin Greenfield, and we are delighted to welcome you all here this morning as we celebrate Shabbat and as we celebrate with Zoe and her family as she, believe it or not, becomes bat mitzvah. We were just saying, it is really hard to believe from, preschool days to receiving the date, all of a sudden the day is here. But which really says that today is not kind of a standalone experience, but it's really a step along the journey that you've been on for a very long time, Zoe, and that we hope that you will remain on for a very long time from here. Because today really represents a moment where you are dedicating yourself to our sacred Jewish path and story, along with your friends and family who are here to celebrate with you, as you enter into what we really hope will be and commit yourself to a lifelong engagement with Jewish values and traditions as we celebrate as you become bat mitzvah. So it is such a joy to get to be here with you and your family, and also those who are joining us on live stream this morning. We do want to limit the participation of those who are not in this room. So if you have not turned off or silenced your cell phones, now is a great time to do that. We will begin our service this morning on page 101 with Ma Tovu, and we invite Zoe and Eli to come on up to help lead us in this prayer.
Ma Tovu,
stay on up here. We continue on page 103 with our morning blessings, Birkot HaShachar, and we say this list of blessings every single day as a reminder to be grateful for all that we have in our lives, for the way that our bodies work, for our connection to the world around us, and thank God we are here and we are able to make free choices in our lives, and so we express this gratitude every single day. So I invite you to rise if you're comfortable and able to do so, and Zoe will help lead us in Birkot HaShachar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sefina l'chavkein ben yom uben layla.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shasani b'tzamo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shasanu b'nei chorim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shasani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Pokeach Ivri.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Malbish Harumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Matir Asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Zokef Kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Rokach haaretz hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamichim tzaddik
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam She'asa li kol tzorkim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Yisrael b'gvurah.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Yisrael b'tifarah.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten la'yavivko.
Amen.
Ornino hayom l'chayon l'cheino chesarachim beinechu beinei kol re'enu v'tigmalenu chazurim tovim baruch Adonai gomel chazurim tovim li'amo Yisrael.
Amen. You may be seated as we turn to page 106.
Ashreinu ma tov chavkeinu ma na'im aleinu ma yafa Yerushateinu. Ashreinu she'nachnu mashkim u'ma'arivim erev boker v'yomrim pamayim v'chol yom Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Adav Shiraho Olam Adahush Baruch Olam Azav Yahu Azav Gadesh et Shimcha Akmati Sheshemecha V'Gadesh et Shimcha Ba'olamecha U'Vishuatcha Tarim V'Tagmi Agardenu Baruch Adonai V'Gadesh et Shimcha Ba'Rabim.
Amen. We continue on page 112 with the Psalm for Shabbat.
Hayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh Bo Hayu HaLevim Omrim B'Beit HaMikdash Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat Tov Lehodot LaAdonai Uzamer L'Shimcha Elyon Uzamer L'Shimcha Elyon Lehagid Baboker Chastecha Ve'emunacha Ba'elut Alei Asor V'aleina Ve'alei Higayon B'chinor Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat Tov Lehodot LaAdonai Uzamer L'Shimcha Elyon Uzamer L'Shimcha Elyon Yisimchatani Adonai B'fo'alecha B'ma'asei yadecha haranein Magolu ma'asecha Adonai Me'olam Ku'mashotecha Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat Tov Lehodot LaAdonai Uzamer L'Shimcha Elyon Uzamer L'Shimcha Elyon. We continue silently and pick up together 4 lines from the bottom in the Hebrew and in the transliteration. Tzadik ata Yifrach, Keres Babanon, Yisyesh Shetulim, Baveit Adonai, B'chatzrot Eloheinu, Yafrichu, Odenu v'un b'seva, Dishenim v'rananim, Yiyun lehagid, Yashar Adonai, Turi, Turi, V'lo Amlatabo.
We turn ahead to page 121, and we have an opportunity both at the beginning and at the end of our service to recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish. So if you're observing a yard site or currently in a period of saying Kaddish, I invite you to rise, along with all those for whom it might be your custom to rise in support of the mourners, or for those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, as we recite the words of Kaddish Yatom. Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'alma Divra Kirute, V'amlich Malchute, V'chayechon, U'v'yomechon, U'v'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, U'v'yizman Kari, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Li'olam V'lamei Almaya, Yit Barach V'yish Tabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Romam V'yit Naseh, V'yitz adar, v'yitz aleh, v'yitz halal, shemei dekudasha briachu, le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. You may be seated. We continue on page 122 as we move into the next section of our service, Psuke de Zimra, or verses of praise and song. And this part of our service is meant to kind of awaken us and get us ready for our prayer service. It's sort of like a warm-up to Shacharit, to the morning service that will come in just a little bit. And so we hope that you can kind of get settled in and find your voice and find your sort of source of praise, because that's what we're tapping into in this moment. And so with Baruch She'amar, we recognize that at the beginning of Torah, we learn that the way in which the world was created is that God spoke and the world came into being. There were no hammers and nails. It was nothing like that. But it was with words. And so we recognize with that the power not only of God's words, but of our words also today, to really be able to build people up and to build up our world and to also take care with them so that we don't also tear things down or destroy at the same time. So I invite you to rise if you're comfortable and able to do so as we move into Baruch She'amar.
Baruch She'amar v'haya'olam.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hosei Bereshit.
Baruch Shemo.
Baruch Omer ve'yosef.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Ozerum Kayeh.
Baruch Shemo.
Baruch Merachem al haaretz.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Merachem al habriyut.
Baruch Shemo.
Baruch Mishalem Sakar Tov l'Reyav.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Elad v'Kayam l'Netzach.
Baruch Shemo.
Baruch V'Le'am Matzil. Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo. Yachid Chel Amim Melech Mishubach V'Farei Ad Shemo HaGadol. Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Mehullal V'Tishbachu.
You may be seated, and we turn ahead to page 136 for Ashrei.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Ole Hallelujah Selah.
Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am sh'Adonai Eloha.
Tehillah leDavid Aromimcha Elohai HaMelech V'yavacha Shimcha le'olam va'ed.
B'chol yom avarchecha, v'halela shimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Hulamod V'lidolato in Cheker.
Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, u'gvuratecha yakidu.
Adar Kevotodecha V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha.
Ve'ezuz norotecha yomeru, u'gedulatecha saprana.
Zecher Rav Tuvacha Yabi'u V'tzitchadecha Yironinu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech ha'payim uvdol chesed.
Tov Adonai lakol v'rachamav kol ma'asav.
Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yivarchucha.
Kevod malchutecha yomeru, ugvoratecha yidaberu.
Lehodia livnei ha'adam gvorotav, uchvod hadar malchuto.
Malchutecha malchut chol olamim, umemshadecha b'chol dor v'dor.
Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, v'zokek l'chol ha'chefufim.
Einechel elecha yitzaberu, v'yatanotin lohem et ochlam mito.
Poteach et yadecha, u'matzviah l'chol chai rashon.
Tzadik Adonai b'chol rechav, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav.
Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yikra'uhu be'emet.
Ritzon Yurev Yaseh, v'yet Shabbatam Yishma v'yoshiyem.
Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, v'et kol hasha'im yashmi.
Teilat Adonai b'verpi, v'varech ha'vasar shivot shalem va'ed.
Va'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata v'yad olam. Hallelujah. We turn to page 141 for Psalm 150.
Hallelujah, 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 בשופר, הללו בני המחינור. הללויה, 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 הללויה. הללו בטוב ומחול, הללו במינים יוגב, הללו בציוצלי שמה, הללו בציוצלי תרועה, כל שמעתי הללויה, כל שמעתי הללויה. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Le'olam Yamin, Baruch Adonai Mitzion Shochem Yerushalayim, Hallelujah, Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, Snei Leflot Levodo, O Baruch Shem Kavodo Le'olam, Yimalei Kavodo, Kol Haaretz, Amen, Amen.
Page 147.
Shochem Ad Marom, Vekadosh Shemo, Vekatuv Nonenu Tzadikim Adonai, La'isharim Lamanela, Ve'isharim Titala L'divrei Tzadikim Dibarach, Ovilshon Chazidim Tivromam, Oviker Kedoshim, Titkadash, U'makalot Ribavot, Amachavin Yisrael, Adonai Yipashim Chamuchenu B'chodor V'dor, Shekin Chol B'kol Yitzorim Lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu V'le'yavdenu V'yoteinu, Le'odor Le'alel L'shameach, Le'ba'er Lo'mim L'adem, Le'varech, Le'alel L'kalves, Al Kol Divrei Shiro B'dishvot Mibn Ishai, Avdecha Meshichecha, Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu, Ayel HaMelech Hagel B'Shamayim V'Aretz, Kilecha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu V'le'yavdenu V'yoteinu, Sheshachad Lev Zimra Uzvam Shanetza Gula Gra, Tilat Hifek Rusha U'Malchut, Berachut Ve'Odahut, Me'atam Yarolam, Baruch Adonai, El Melech Robedish Bachot, El Haorot, Adon Haniflaot, Abocher B'Shirei Zimra, Melech Elchei
We
Ha'olamim.
continue on the middle of page 148 as Zoe leads us in Chatzi Kaddish.
Yit Kadav, Yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'ama divrach hirotei, B'amlich malhutei, B'chayechon u'vyomechon, U'chayei deho Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, U'izman kariv, V'imeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach, Le'olam Le'olam Maya Yivarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabar v'yitra'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shmei Likud Shah Brechu Le'olam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbichata v'ne'emata Damira Be'ama V'imeru. Amen.
We turn to page 149, and I invite you to rise if you're comfortable and able to do so as we move into Shacharit, our morning service with Baruch.
Baruch en Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Le'vorach Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Yoter Or B'nei Choshech, Osei Shalom Borei et HaKol.
Continue on page 150.
En Kirkecha Adonai Eloheinu B'olam Hazeh, ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס פרתך גולנו למות המשיח, ואינו מלך המשיחנו לתחיית המתים.
Page 151.
אלא תורתו המעשים, ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה, גדלו בטובו, מלא עולם, דעת ותבונה, טוב ומימתו, המתגאה על חיות הקודש, בנדר בכבוד על המרכבה, זכות ומישור לפני כיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו, טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו, יצרם בדעת, בבינה ובחסקל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם, להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זים ופיקים נוגה, נעזיבם בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים בהם ברצון קודמם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, תולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הבנה, שבח נותנים לו, כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש.
Page 152.
יברך משירו, שבח מעשה ידיך, ויאמר שיסידי ברוך הסלע.
Top of 153.
יברך שרים כראשים, משתבחים כאן. כולם אהובים, כולם מרורים, כולם יבורים, וכולם עושים ימה וירא רצון קונם. וכולם פותחים בפיהם במירושו ותורה, בשיריו זמרה וברכים שבחים, ומפארים ומריצים ומגישים וממליכים, את שם האל המלך, הידוע הגיבור הנורא, קדושו. וכולם מקבלים עליהם, ומלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להטיס יוצאים בנחת רוט, בשפה ברורה ובנעימה, קדושה כולם כאחד, עונים יאמרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ כבודו. ואפרים חי לקודש פרש גדול, מנסים למצרפים לאותם שבחים ויאמרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו למקומותינו המחדש בתשובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית כאמור לעשרים גדולים כביעולם חסדו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, 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 ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, ברוך את אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Page 154.
Ava Rava Atanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Layinu Lavitera Chamat Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Va'avor Avotenu V'imotenu Shebachu B'cha Shebachu B'cha Avinu Malkeinu ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכונן ותלמדנו, אבינו האב הרחמן, הרחם רחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין, להשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, Talmud Toratecha v'ahava v'ha'ereinu b'toratecha v'na'avek lebeinu b'mitzvotecha v'yached levaveinu li'ahava u'yira et shemecha v'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed v'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed ki b'shem hodshecha hagadol amnora matachnu nagila v'nismecha nagila v'nismecha b'shuvatecha.
Before we move into the last paragraph on this page, Zoe, in a moment, you will put on your talit for the very first time. That picture notwithstanding, maybe that was the very first time. And you will lead us in the words of the Shema. So we want to invite up your Papa Mark Schwartz and your Aunt Bev Weinberg and your cousins Brooke and Jesse Weinberg and your mom Lori Walinsky to come on up to present you with your talit. And this radiant group was with you and your bubby Deborah when you selected and purchased your talit on a family trip to Israel. And so we can see the pride and joy that this group feels for you today. And we can see the pride and joy that your bubby feels and felt for you on that day as you picked out your talit together. So I hope that you can feel her presence with you in this moment. And I know that it is still hard to believe that your bubby can't be standing on the bima with us today. But we know how proud she is of you on this day and for the celebration. And she's here. She's here. But we know how proud she would be. So Zoe, every time you wrap yourself in your talit, may you feel enfolded in the loving embrace of your family and your bubby. And may you remember your connection to your family, to the Jewish people, and to the land of Israel. And be reminded to lead a life of mitzvot guided by your Jewish values. So you can say your blessing and then they can wrap you. Amen.
Amen.
And Zoe, you're going to come on up here, and we invite those who are wearing a talit, if you want to gather together the four corners as we get ready to recite Shema, but we'll continue with the last paragraph on page 154. Page 155.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hashem k'vod maltov li'olam va'ed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'chayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ובשרתם להיות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך ובטחתם על מזבח
beitecha uvisharecha. We continue silently at the top of page 156. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei bigdeihem ledoratam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf b'til techelet v'haya lahem l'tzitzit Uritem oto, uzkartem ekol mitzvot Adonai, vasitem otam, velo taturu, acharei levavchem, v'acharei inechem, asher atem zonim achareihem, leman tizkaru, vasitem ekol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim v'elohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotziti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, l'hiot lachem l'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, amen. Page 157.
Amet Shetahu Adonai Eloheinu le'avatenu v'yavotenu Malkeinu melech avatenu v'yavotenu Golenu goel avatenu v'yavotenu Yotzreinu tzur yishoatenu Podeinu matzilenu me'olam shemecha Ein Elohim zulatecha Ezrat avatenu v'yavotenu Adahu me'olam Yerushalayim
Page 158.
Loch le'layon baruchum vorach Moshe Miriam v'nei Yisrael charu shira v'simcha rava v'yamru kulam mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nolati lo sefer Shira chadasha shemechu ye'olim l'shema sarayam yachad kulam hudu v'him l'ko v'yameru
Adonai imloch li'olam va'ed. We invite you to rise as we move to the last paragraph on page 158 and prepare to move into our Amidah.
Tzur Yisrael kumam Yisrat Yisrael uvtechnu mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael Golenu Adonai tzvaot shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Adonai Ga'al
Yisrael. Page 159.
Baruch
Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei hakol V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot U'mevi goel livnei v'neihem L'ma'an shemo b'yahava Melech ozer ufoked u'moshia u'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magid Abraham ufoked Sarah Atah gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayim eitim atarav lehoshia Morid hatal Mechakel chayim bechesed Mechayim eitim berachamim rabim Somech noflim v'rofei holim, umatir asurim, umekayen emunato, lishenei afar, bichamocha bal givorot, umido melach, melech me'mid umechayei, umatzmiach Yeshua. Amen. Page 161.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו, בשמי מרום, בשמי מרום. ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך הארץ כבודו. אז בקור אשקלון, אדיר וחזק משמיעים כה, מנסים למצרפים לאותם ברוך יום מהרו.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ממקומך מלכנו,
מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
מתי תמלוך, תמלוך בציון. מתי תמלוך, תמלוך בציון. בקרוב בימינו, בקרוב בימינו לעולם, בעת תשכון. בקרוב בימינו, בקרוב בימינו לעולם, בעת תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש, תתגדל ותתקדש, בתוך ירושלים, ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. ויהינו תירנה, תירנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ויהינו תירנה, תירנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. על ידי דוד, על ידי דוד, על ידי דוד, משיח צדקך. על ידי דוד, על ידי דוד, על ידי דוד, משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגידו לך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. המלך גדול, המלך גדול וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד לך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ברוך אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue silently through to page 166 with the prayers in the Siddur in Hebrew or in English, or I invite you to take a moment to recognize your own personal prayers. Shalom B'Romav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'Yal Kol Yisrael, V'Yimru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'Yal Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'Yal Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael. Amen. You may be seated. We continue on 167 with Kaddish Shalim. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Leolam Elam Eomaya Yitbarach. Brichu. Amen. 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 We turn to page 168 as we move into our Torah service. Malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Adonai oz li'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim heitiv avirtzon ha'et Zion. Tivnei homot Yerushalayim. Tivnei homot Yerushalayim. Ivecha levad vatachnu, melech elram v'nisa Adon olamim. We invite Zoe's brother Eli to come to the bima, along with her cousins Owen Walinsky and Bryce and Evan Tannen, to help us open the ark. And I will invite all the rest of you to please rise as we get ready to open our Aron Kodesh and take out our Torah scroll. Good job, guys.
besanecha mipanecha, Mitzvah tetzei Torah, Mitzvah tetzei Torah, Uvar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, V'yamo Yisrael, B'kedushato.
Page 171. Okay, come on up, Eli. Do you want to help close it too? Yeah, there you go. Yep, yep. It's heavy. Thank you.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Galul Adonai Yitzi, Ramimai Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai ha'yidula, v'ha'yivura, v'ha'tiferet, v'ha'nesa, v'ha'od, yikol
There you go. Bring up the rear. Nice job, guys. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. We're together again. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. You like that? Shabbat shalom. Hey, Hallie. Shabbat shalom. Nice to see you, Debbie. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yachal Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yachal Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yachal Yisrael. Yibaru, Amen.
You may be seated. So we move now into our Torah service. And this week we'll be reading from Parshat Naso. And Zoe will share some reflections on this Parsha a little bit later. But just to orient you as we dive in, there's a lot happening in this Parsha. I mentioned last night it is the longest Parsha that we have in Torah. And so we'll be kind of continuing a census from last week and talking about a really strange ritual that thankfully doesn't happen anymore, as well as some descriptions of what a Nazirite is, someone who kind of dedicates themselves to extra service, even though they might not be required to do so. And we'll also kind of be completing the ritual of dedicating the tabernacle this week. And so there's also a really beautiful piece that even looks a little bit different if you've ever looked at a Torah scroll. Normally, the columns are all kind of lined up very straight. And the words kind of go it's like justified from one end to the next, and it's like all very consistent. But this week there's something that happens a little bit differently because it's a really special blessing known as the priestly blessing. And we'll dive in and hear a little bit more about that later on today. And we'll also have a chance to bless Zoe with these words that appear in our Torah portion this week, which is really very special. So if you're following along with our Torah reading, It begins in your bigger book, your Chumash, on page 807, and you can follow along with the blessings before and after in the smaller book, in the Siddur on page 172.
Amen. Yatem hadvikim Adonai Elohechem, Hayim kulchem hayom.
For our first Aliyah, we invite Zoe's Papa, Marv Schwartz, to come up to the Bima, and our Torah reading will begin on with chapter 7, verse 18, and Bert, I believe you are the first Torah reader. It's a treat to have our Gabbai reading Torah for us today. But am I correct that this is Bert's Parshaversary? This is your anniversary of your Bar Mitzvah. So a long line of amazing people who come before you with this particular Parsha, Zoe.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Amen. Bayom hasheni Ikriv Netanel ben Suar Nisi Sachar. Ikriv et korbano Karat kesef achat, shloshim umea mishkala, mizrak echad kesef shivim shekel b'shekel hakodesh, shneihem meleim solet b'lulav hashemen lemincha, kaf achat asara zahav minei hakatoret, par echad ben bakar. Echad, kevas echad ben shnato leolah, zirizim echad lekatat, ozevach hashlamim, bakar shnayim, elim chamisha todim chamisha, kevasim b'nei shana chamisha, ze korban Netanel ben Suar, Bayom HaShlishi Nasi Livnei Zevulun Eliyav ben Chelon Korbano Karat Kesef Achat Shloshim Umea Mishkala Mizrak Echad Kesef Shivim Shekel V'Shekel HaKodesh Shneihem Meleim Solet B'Lulav HaShemen Lemincha Kaf achat asara zahav b'nei haketoret, par echad ben bakar, ayil echad keves echad ben shnato leolah, zirizim echad lekatat, ozevach hashlamim bakar shnayim, elim chamisha todim chamisha, kevasim b'nei shana chamisha, ze korban Eliyav ben Chelon.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher notan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Yamot Sheni.
For our second Aliyah, we invite Brett Tischler, who was up here not so long ago as his daughter became Bat Mitzvah. Mazel Tov to you, Anna. You're welcome to come on up with your dad if you want, but now that I've totally embarrassed you, feel free not to.
Take it, Tali. That's right.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Bayom harviyin nasi livnei Reuven Elitzur ben Shadeur Karbano karat kesef achat Shloshim umea mishkala Mizrach echad kesef 70 shekel b'shekel hakodesh שניהם מלאים סולת בלולב השמן למנחה כף אחת 10 זהב מלאה קטורת פר אחד בן בקר איל אחד כבש אחד בן שנתו לעולה שעיר עזים אחד לחטאת וזבח השלמים בבקר שניים אלים 5 תודים 5 כבשים בני שנה 5 זה קורבן אליצור בן שדיור ביום החמישי נשיא לבני שמעון שלומיאל בן צורי שדי קורבנו קרת כסף אחת 30 ומאה משקלה מזרק אחד כסף 70 שקל בשקל הקודש שניהם מלאים סולת בלולב השמן למנחה כף אחת 10 זהב מלאה קטורת פר אחד בן בקר איל אחד כבש אחד בן שנתו לעולה שעיר עזים אחד לחטאת וזבח השלמים בקר שניים אלים 5 תודים 5 כבשים בני שנה 5 זה קורבן שלומיאל בן צורי שדי
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shkoach. For our third aliyah, we have Alana and Glenn Dunna coming up, and our Torah reader will be Cantor Benjamin. And we'll be picking up with our Torah reading on page 108 near the bottom at verse 42. That's amazing.
Baruch Hu Adonai Havarach
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bachar banu mikol hamim V'natan lanu et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ביום השישי נשיא לפני גד אליסף בן דואל קורבנו קרא כסף אחד 30 ומאה משקלה מזרק אחד כסף 70 שקל ושקל הקודש שניהם מלאים סולת בלול השמן למנחה כף אחת 10 זהב מלא קטורת פר אחד במקר איל אחד כבש אחד בן שנתו לעולה שעיר עזים אחד לחטאת וזבח השלמים בקר שניים אלים 5 עתודים 5 כבשים בני שנה 5 זה קורבן אליסף בן דואל ביום השביעי נשיא לפני אפרים אלישמע בן עמיהוד קורבנו קראת כסף אחד 30 ומאה משקלה מזרק אחד כסף 70 שקל בשקל הקודש שניהם מלאים סולת בלול השמן למנחה כף אחת 10 זהב מלא קטורת פר אחד במקר איל אחד כבש אחד בן שנתו לעולה שעיר עזים אחד לחטאת וזבח השלמים בקר שניים מקפלים 5 עתודים 5 כבשים בני שנה 5 זה קורבן אלישמע בן עמיהוד.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shar kochachem. For our fourth Aliyah, we invite up Zoe's grandpa Mike and grandma Nicey Walinsky, and our Torah reader will be her mom Lori Walinsky. And we'll be picking up our Torah reading on page 809 with verse 54. And you'll see that we are kind of now in a place as we move through our Torah, and I mean we've been here, but if you're following along in the English, you are not in the wrong place. There's a lot of repetition that's happening. So there's a few things that change as the different chieftains are bringing their offerings to the tabernacle, and so we change out the day and the person and the tribe, but the offering themselves is the same for each tribe.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Bayom hashmini nasi livnei Menashe Gamliel ben Pedatzor Karbano Ka'arat kesef achat Shloshim u'me'ah Mishkela Mizrach echad kesef Shivim shekel beshekel hakodesh Shnehem mele'im Soholet Belulav v'shemen lemincha Kaf echad Asara zahav Mili'at ketoret Par echad Ben bakar Ayil echad Keves echad Ben shnato le'olah Se'irizim echad lechatat Ozevach hashlamayim Bakar shanayim Eliv chamisha Atudim chamisha Kvasim v'nei shana chamisha Zeh Karban Gamliel ben Pedatzor Bayom haTshi'i Nasi livnei Binyamin Avidan ben Gidoni Karbano Ka'arat kesef echad Shloshim u'me'ah Mishkela Mizrach echad kesef Shivim shekel beshekel hakodesh Shnehem mele'im Solet Belulav v'shemen lemincha Kaf echad Asara zahav Mele'at ketoret Par echad Ben bakar Ayil echad Keves echad Ben shnato le'olah Se'irizim echad lechatat Ozevach hashlamayim Bakar shanayim Elim chamisha Atudim chamisha Kvasim v'nei shana chamisha Zeh Karban amidah ben Gidoni
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam noten b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shar kochachem. For our fifth Aliyah, we invite up Zoe's Uncle Mark Walinsky, Aunt Jenny Walinsky, Aunt Stacy Walinsky, and Uncle Ken Tannen. And Lori will continue as our Torah reader. And we pick up our Torah reading on page 810 with verse 66.
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher baruch banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Bayom ha'asiri nasi livnei Dan Achiezer ben Amishadai Karbano ka'ara kesef echat Shloshim u'me'ah mishkela Mizrak echad kesef shivim shekel v'shekel hakodesh Shnehem mele'im soled belula b'shemen lemincha Kaf echad asara zahav milea ketoret Par echad ben bakar Ayil echad keves echad ben shnato leola Siirizim echad lechatat Ozevach hashamayim bakar shenayim Elim chamisha atudim chamisha Kevasim b'nei shana chamisha zeh Karban Achiezer ben Amishadai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'hayei olam nasa b'tohenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yishar kochachem. Take a break, Lord. For our sixth aliyah, we invite up Zoe's Aunt Bev Weinberg and Uncle Gary Weinberg. And for our sixth aliyah, Zoe will be the Torah reader, right? 7. Oh, you're doing 7. Are you doing 6, Benjamin? Yep, sorry. I'm just very excited. I'm very excited. And we pick up our Torah reading on page 810 with verse 72.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Havarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Bayom asher yom nasi lifnei asher pagiel ben ochran korbano karai kesef achad shloshim u'me'ah mishkala mizrak echad kesef shivim shekel b'shekel hakodesh shnehem mele'im so lepelu l'shem l'mincha kaf achad hasura zahav melech haTorah par echad b'makar ayil echad kevz echad ben shnato le'olah Sirizim echad l'chatat v'ozev echashlamim bakar shenayim elim chamisha atudim chamisha kevasim b'nei shana chamisha Zeh korban bagiel ben ochran Bayom 12 yom nasi lifnei Naftali Achira ben Enan Korbano karai kesef echad shloshim u'me'ah mishkala mizrak echad kesef shivim shekel b'shekel hakodesh shnehem mele'im so lepelu l'shem l'mincha kaf achat asara zahav melech haTorah par echad b'makar ayil echad kevz echad ben shnato le'olah Sirizim echad l'chatat Ozev echashlamim bakar shenayim elim chamisha atudim chamisha kevasim b'nei shana chamisha zeh korban achira ben Enan.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yishar kochachem. Before we move on to our 7th aliyah, we take a moment as we move through our service to have a Misha Berach for healing, a blessing for those in our community who are in need of healing, whether it's healing of the body or healing of the spirit. And as we say this prayer together, if there are names of people who you're thinking about and you're holding in your hearts, if you wish to share them aloud, I invite you to kind of raise your hand so as I look around the room, you can share their name with our community so that we can send our prayers to them as well. Michael. Yeah. Mordechai Avram Ben Azriel, Debbie Cohen, Yitza Bat Golda, Eileen Silver, Rick Zubo, and Lucas Rutz. Mishabeira, Chavatena Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sarivka Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim, alehem l'chachazikam ulrapotam, v'yishlach lahem mehira v'froah shlema, min hashamayim, refuat hanefesh v'refuat haguf, b'toch sha'ar hacholim, v'chazek et yedei ha'oskim b'tzorcheihem, Shabbat hi meals op u'refuah, krova lavo, Hashtab agala uvizman karib v'nomar amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah bring blessing and healing to all those who we mentioned and all those who we hold in our hearts. May the Holy One mercifully restore them to health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being together with all others who are ill, and may God grant strength to those who tend to them. Though Shabbat is a time to refrain from crying out, we yet hope and pray that healing is at hand. And we all say together, Amen. For our seventh Aliyah, we invite Zoe and her parents, Andy and Lori Walinsky, to come on up. And Andy and Lori will have the honor of this Aliyah, and Zoe will be our Torah reader. And we continue with chapter 7, verse 84, and that is on page 811.
Baruch hu et Adonai hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Zot Chanukat HaMizbeah B'yom Himsha Oto Me'et Nisye Yisrael Karot Kesef Shte Mesrei Mizrei Chesef Shnei Masar Kapot Zahav Shte Mesrei Shloshim Ume'ah Hakera Ha'echad Kesef V'shivim Hamizrah Ha'echad Kol Kesef HaKelim Alpayim V'arba Me'ot B'shekel HaKodesh Kapot Zahav Shte Mesrei Me'ot Ketoret Asura Hakaf B'shekel HaKodesh Kol Zahav HaKapot Esrim Ume'ah Kol Abakar Le'olah Shnei Masar Parim Elim Shnei Masar Kivasim B'nei Shana Shnei Masar Umin Hatam Usirei Izim Shnei Masar L'chatat V'echol Bakar Zeva Hashlamim Ezim V'arba'a Parim Elim Shishim Atudim Shishim Kivasim B'nei Shana Shishim Zot Chanukat HaMizbeah Achrei Himsha Ota, Ubevo Moshe Ochel, Moed Ladaber Ito, Vayishma et Hakol, Madaber Elav, Me'al Hakaporet Asher Alon Haidud, Mi Bein Shnei Hakiruvim, Vadaber Elav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. ויעמד ברכידותי וימליך מלכותי. וחייכון וביומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל. בגדה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבו מבורך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילה בין כל ברכתה ושירתה ואמרו
Amen.
Tamud, Tamud, Tamud. Habachura, Habat Mitzvah, Maya Ariel, Bat Abraham Itamar, Vishoshana Deborah, Matir Chizki.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvara.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvara Li'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Kol habakar le'olah shnei ma'asar prim. Elim shnei ma'asar kevasim b'nei shana. Shnei ma'asar min hatam usirei izim. Shnei ma'asar lechatat ve'ho bakar zaval hashlamim. Esim va'arba'a parim. Elim shishim atudim shishim. Kevasim b'nei shana shishim. Zot chanukat hamizbeah achareihim shah oto. Uvavot Moshe Elohel Eloi the bear et oto Vayishma et hakol Madaber elav Me'al hakat poret asher al Aaron ha'edud Mi ben shnei hakiruvim Vadaber elav. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Zoe, I have for you a special Misha Berach as you become Bat Mitzvah. You can stay over there if you'd like, wherever you want. Beam is yours. Misha Berach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et Maya Ariel Bat Abraham Itamar v'Shoshana Devorah Asher Alta Hayom Lichvod HaMakom v'Lichvod HaTorah v'HaMitzvah Yehi Elohim ima bayamim habaim kasher haya imam yom hivalda va'ad heina Yehi ratzon Elohim legala v'vriyut haguf v'hanefesh v'yitvuna uve'anvat chen v'ahava habriot v'ahavat Torah v'timtza chen v'seichel tov b'nei Elohim v'yadam Yeruhu rahava yisamhu ukroveha ya'alo zu v'nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you, Zoe, daughter of Andy and Lori, who has risen today for the honor of the omnipresent and for the honor of Torah and of Mitzvah. May God's presence fill your life in the days to come, as God's sustenance has been with you since the day of your birth. May you grow in health of body and of spirit, in wisdom and in graciousness, humility and love of others, and in love of Torah. May you find favor and distinction in the eyes of God and of your fellow human beings. And we all say together, Amen. Yesh koach. So we now prepare to lift and dress our Sefer Torah. And I invite you to rise if you're comfortable and able to do so as we turn to page 174. Oh, Lori, you got to stay on up. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. So Zoe is going to share some of her own reflections on her Torah portion before we move into our Haftarah.
For my bat mitzvah, I'm reading from the portion naso. In Hebrew, the word naso means to take a census, which is what goes on in most of my portion. It also addresses priestly duties, camp purification, and punishments of adultery. I'm also lucky enough to have the portion with the largest number of letters, words, and verses in all of the 54 weekly Torah portions, as well as an insanely long Haftarah.
And the longest chapter in all of Torah.
But Naso also has one of the oldest pieces of liturgy that's still recited today, the priestly blessing. God tells Moses to give Aaron the direction to bless his children with the following prayer. May God bless you and keep you. May God illuminate the almighty countenance for you and favor you. May God lift up God's countenance towards you and establish peace for you. They shall place my name above the sons of Israel, and as for me, I shall bless them. This is the part I decided to focus on since it's one of the most well-known passages in Jewish liturgy. It's a blessing for physical well-being and sustenance. Although, when you dive deeper into the words, it turns into more of a spiritual climb, getting closer to God. First we serve God, then we know God, and then we finally rise to be unified with God. The priest is usually the one giving the blessing, asking God to give all these great things to the receiver of the blessing. Nowadays, rabbis, cantors, and even parents can put this blessing upon people. My take on this prayer is that the person saying it is looking up to God as their divine force to protect this individual or family that is receiving the prayer. This is no surprise to anyone that knows me, but I'm really into science and anything with a logical scientific answer. I can understand that some people may consider God to be an almighty force creating Adam and Eve and controlling your fate. But what about the people around us that can do the same thing for us? What if instead of asking God to watch over us, to keep us safe, we ask each other? What if the prayer is really the reciter of the prayer opening their arms to embrace the receiver in a layer of safety? Why should we have to look up to the supreme force to get support, to be favored, to be watched over, when the answer is right in front of us? By showing people our compassion and receiving it from others, we can manifest God in ourselves. We can understand God in a better light and by being that caring force for others, by embracing what it means to spread goodness to other people. There are people that are willing to help, people who are willing to give time, and people who are the true blessings in your life. For my Mitzvah project, I have the honor of being the blessing for kids who aren't as fortunate as I am. By fulfilling the Mitzvah of Tzedakah, I'm collecting money for scholarships to a school in El Salvador through a nonprofit called Ingles Sin Limites. I was made aware of this organization through one of my mom's coworkers at Esperanza Academy. I plan to be a part of a group from Esperanza to help run a summer camp next summer. COVID put a dent in my plan to go next month. I've raised enough money for full yearly scholarships for 10 deserving students. The civil war in El Salvador has made it very hard for children to attend a quality school. By giving kids a good education, it gives them something to do other than join gangs or be subject to their violence. As you can see, anyone can receive a blessing and anyone can be a blessing. My parents have been a blessing, giving me life and caring for me all my 12 years on this planet. My brother has been a blessing in disguise. He certainly teaches me a lot about my patience. But no matter how many times we fight, I know that I will always love him and he will always love me. And I would like to thank the cantor and the rabbi who have certainly been a blessing by teaching me and helping me read and understand the sacred language of the Israelites, Hebrew. And thank you to everyone who is here to help me celebrate this amazing mitzvah.
Thank you, Zoe, for giving us a little bit of a different way of understanding this ancient piece of text that we have. So Zoe is going to move into the chanting of her Haftarah in just a moment. And her Haftarah is from the book of Judges. And Haftarah are typically portions from the prophets or writings that are linked to a Torah portion each week based on some sort of similar theme or story. And in this case, Zoe's Torah portion talks a lot about the role of a Nazir or Nazirite, which is one who takes on additional vows to serve God. And doing so, they also have to refrain from certain actions, such as cutting one's hair or eating and drinking wine or grape products in order to somehow strengthen their devotion to God. And in Zoe's Haftarah, at the very end of the Haftarah, you'll see that there's an announcement of the most famous Nazir that we have, probably, in all of Jewish tradition, Samson. And so her Haftarah will begin by predicting that birth and then eventually kind of completing that with his birth. So coming around the room right now is a lot of crinkling products. So when Zoe completes her Haftarah, we'll tell you when, but we will invite you to shower Zoe with some blessings. So you are all receiving a symbolic little sweet blessing in this moment. I invite you to hold on to it, to think of some blessings that you have for Zoe. We ask that you not eat them, but that you hold on to them, since, obviously we're going to throw them at Zoe later. So if you can just hold on to them and try not to crinkle too much while she's reciting her Haftarah so that we don't distract her and all of the hard work that she's put in. But if you want to follow along, the blessings before and after the Haftarah are in our Siddur in the smaller of the two red books on page 175. And then she'll move into her Haftarah, which is in the larger book in the Chumash, and it begins on page 813.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Vayehi ish echad mitzorah mimishpachat hadani ushmo manoach v'ishto akarav v'lo yalada. Vayera malach Adonai el ha'isha vayomer eleha hinena et akarav v'lo yaladet. V'harit v'yeladet ben v'ata hisham rina v'al tishti yain v'shechar v'al tochli kol tamei ki hinachara v'yeladet ben umara Lo ya'aleh al rosho ki nazir Elohim yeh hanar min habaten vehu yachel lehoshia et Yisrael miad plishtim vatavo ha'isha vatamer leisha lemor Ish Elohim ba Eli umar'ehu kimar'e malach ha'elohim nora me'od velo she'otihu emizehu vet shemo lo higid li vayomer lo hinachara ve'eladet ben vata al tishti yain v'shechar v'tochli kol tamein ki nazir Elohim yeh ha'na'ar min habatan ad yom moto vayatar manoach al Adonai vayomer bi Adonai Ish Elohim asher shalachta yavona od elenu v'yorenu mana'aseh lana'ar hayulad vayishma ha'elohim b'kol manoach v'yavo malach ha'elohim od al ha'isha Vehu Yoshevet Basadeh Umanoach Ishto in Ima Vatimarhe Ha'isha Vatarot Vataged La'isha Vatomer Elav Hine Nir'a Elai Ha'ish Asher Ba Vayom Eli Vayakum Vayelech Manoah Acharei Ishto Vayavo Al Ha'ish Vayomer Lo Ha'ata Ha'ish Asher Divarti El Ha'isha Vayomer Ani Vayomer Manoach Ta yavo divarecha ma'yeh mishpat hanar uma'asehu vayomer malach Adonai el manoach mikol asher marti el ha'isha tishamer mikol asher yetzeh migefen hayayin lo tochol Vayayin v'shechar al teist v'chol tuma al tochal kol asher tzivitzitha tishmor Vayomer Manoach el malach Adonai Natzirana ota v'na'aseh li panucha gedi izim Vayomer malach Adonai el Manoach im turatzinu lo ochal belachmecha va'im ta'aseh olah la'Adonai talena ki lo yada Manoah ki malach Adonai hu Vayomer Manoah Malach Adonai mi shemecha ki avo divracha v'chibadnucha vayomer lo malach Adonai lama zeh tishal lishma mi vehu feli vayikach Manoach et gedi ha'izim vet hamincha vaya'al al hazor la Adonai ומפליא להרשות, ומנוח ואשתו רואים, ויהי ולא תלהב מעל המזבח השמיימה, ויעמך אדוני בלהב המזבח, ומנוח ואשתו רואים, ויפלו אלפיים ארצה, ויעשה עוד מלאך אדוני יהרו על מנוח ואל אשתו, אז ידע מנוח כי מלאך אדוני הוא. ויאמר מנוח על אשתו, מות נמות, כי אלוהים ראינו. ותאמר לו אשתו, לו חפץ אדוני להמיתנו, לא לקח מידינו עולה ומנחה, ולא הראנו את כל אלה, וכעת לא השמיענו כזאת, ותלך חמישה בן, ותקרא את שמו שמשון, ויגדל הנער, ויברכהו אדוני. ותחל רוח אדוני לפעמו במחנה דן, בין אורה ובין אשתאול. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי המלך נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
האל הנאמן בכל דבריו.
אמן.
רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
משמח ציון בבניך.
אמן.
שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך. במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסא לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו. כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
מגן דוד.
אמן.
על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה, לבבות ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אבחות מות דוד לך, ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
Mikadesh Shabbat.
Amen. So hopefully you've thought about some blessings and you can very lightly in an underhanded fashion toss them on up here. Simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tov, mazel tov, simin tov, yeah, hey, lanu, yeah, hey, lanu, oh, Yisrael, yeah, hey, lanu, yeah, hey, lanu, oh, Yisrael, yeah, hey, lanu, yeah, hey, lanu, oh, Yisrael, yeah, hey, lanu, yeah, hey, lanu, oh, Yisrael. If I'm not mistaken, some of those blessings may have come up to you several times, a lot of them from your family right down here. For all of the short throws, they kind of found their way up there a second time. So I'm impressed that you did not run and hide and that you actually received them all, which I hope you are very proud of all that you accomplished. So in a moment, I'm going to invite up some of our younger members of our community today to help us clean some of this up. And Brett, maybe we could bring up the basket from the back also so that we can put them in there. You're welcome to hang on to some for yourselves as well and also help us to put them back in the basket. The only thing that I ask is that if you plan on partaking of some of these blessings yourselves and eating them, if you could wait until after the service so that, again, we don't distract Zoe with the wrapper and that we don't end up leaving them around on the ground. So come on up and help us to clean them up, especially our members of the community who are under 12, but I see some that are over 13 who are coming up as well, and that's totally
Can I
fine.
sit down?
The quicker it gets cleaned up, the better.
Oh, that's true. You have not become bat mitzvah.
How many people do you think God hit in the head?
I got hit 3 times.
I hit up there. Hi, Tay Tay. I hit that thing up there. I got two. Here, have some.
Oh, Isla, you don't know what I do during this part, do you?
But you can get two.
It's like 2 random people.
You're welcome.
My children, go. As soon as this is done,
Here, I'll help you get back to your seat, okay?
Is there water?
Here, I'll take these. You take those. I'll walk you back.
no.
I said I'd walk him back. His hands were only so big. His hands were only so big. So I said I'd walk him back. Okay. All right. I gave you a whole bunch back there. I'm going to hold on to these. You take that one. All right. Thank you for your help. I don't know what we would do without you. So you could hold on to those for later. You're up.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi.
Take a deep breath. You did it. So, one of the things that you mentioned in your speech is that you got a taste of what the story actually means and what the words in your Haftorah mean in particular. Because, we had to clear up a few things. One, I promise there's a point to this. We learned that Mr. and Mrs. Manoah, they fell on their faces, not toward their faces. We learned that the angel appeared to Manoah's wife, not on Manoah's wife. But you understood how all of this mattered, that getting all these tiny little details right. And
I know you knew that, and I knew you knew that from a very young age. Because, as everybody knows, it's Wingardium Leviosa, not Leviosa. So, I am incredibly lucky to have to share the bima with you today. Another true Potterhead. We have a third one up here. Rabbi Roni is wearing her Marauders map vest. And so part of me has been sort of thinking and racking my brain, because I knew I was going to talk about Harry Potter with you, because what else was I going to do? What moments in Harry Potter really signify bar or bat mitzvah? And the first one that came to mind is how in the wizarding world, as soon as you're 17, you are a full wizard. The trace goes off you, as we know, was one of the major plot points in the Deathly Hallows. And how that is marked in that book is, Mrs. Weasley gives Harry the watch. As you can see, I'm wearing my Slytherin watch. And, that is clearly a sort of bar mitzvah moment in the wizarding world, because now that you are 17, you are a wizard. Regardless of what happens, they can't take that away from you. Except it doesn't totally work Judaically, because there's no big ceremony. There's nothing that marks that happening. You just get a watch. So while technically that works, and that is how bar mitzvah works, whether or not you have the ceremony, you are a bar or bat mitzvah as soon as a boy turns 13 or a girl turns 12. But in our modern American world, this has become a major rite of passage, the ceremony, the service. And so that's why I struck that off my list, even though technically, yes, that is the big moment. So that got me thinking, okay, what about the ordinary wizarding levels? 15, closer to 13 and 12. Yes, that sort of works. But unlike the ordinary wizarding levels, this isn't a test. It feels like one, but it's not. And if it were a test, don't worry, you wouldn't be getting a troll on any of it. You did a great job. We all saw that. We all knew that. So that's one moment that sort of fits. It has more parallels too, so that could be one of them. But there was another piece of it too, that in Orthodox Judaism in particular, there is a blessing that is said by parents at a bar bat mitzvah, freeing the parent of the responsibility of a Jewish child from their being responsible of them for Jewish law. It is now upon you. It is now your responsibility to do what you're going to do Judaically. So you couple that with one of the other major pieces that has become part of the bar and bat mitzvah ceremony. You got one today. You got your talit. And you're wearing it publicly, and it's a mark that your status in our community has changed. So really, if you think about it, the moment in Harry Potter that is most like a bar or bat mitzvah, where the responsibility of one person is freed from another and it goes to another human being, marked with an exchange of a garment, really has to be, you know where this is going, right? Do you want to do it together? Master has given Dobby a sock. Dobby is a free elf. So, on that note, this is my bat mitzvah blessing for you. May you explore all the wisdom that Judaism has to offer in our Kesher Teens program next year. with the intellectual curiosity of a Ravenclaw. May you show up and participate and do the work that keeps Judaism going with the diligence and cheerful attitude of a Hufflepuff. May you be an example of how to lead your best Jewish life with the bravery and loyalty of a Gryffindor. And may you do all these things with the unwavering dedication and determination of a Slytherin. And may you never lose your inner Dobby. Mazel Tov, I'm so happy for you.
Now it's my turn. So I'm going to extend that a little bit, which is not what I thought I was going to be saying, but I'll get to this later. And also think about, if we're thinking about exchange of garments and exchange of sort of responsibility of raising a child and kind of moving into a new phase, then I think we could also think about bat mitzvah as the moment when every 11-year-old wizard goes off to Hogwarts. And that moment of receiving a robe and finding out a little bit more about who it is that they're going to become as the sorting hat goes on their head, that is also, I think, a little bit of what this moment feels like. Because you have now been stepping into this new role, kind of getting ready, packing your trunk. I don't know what your animal is. You'll have to let us know later. But if you find an owl in your house, don't be surprised. And so you've kind of been getting ready for a really long time. But there's a moment where the students kind of leave their parents' home and go into this new phase of finding out who they are that I think is also represented in what it means to become a bat mitzvah. And so, as we know, on the one hand, that path might be kind of laid out before you, but the hat does take your wishes into account. And so I hope that the education that you've had here at BTBJ and the experiences that you've had up until this point in your life have given all of us some information and knowledge about who we see that you are and who we think you might become. But I hope that you also kind of take your own, decisions into account with all of that as you also pave your own path of who it is that you become. Because even though you're not moving out of your parents' house, thank God, you are stepping into a new phase. And so it is a moment where you'll begin to, and you'll be required to make a lot of your own choices, even more than you did before. And so I look forward to seeing what that journey brings. But I wanted to say, Yasher Koach and Mazel Tov, and just commend you on how beautifully you shared the Bima with us today. And moving through your very long Haftarah and Torah, I know how hard you worked at all of that, and it has just been a pleasure to have you up here, and I hope that you're really proud of all that you've accomplished, because you should be. Zoe, you have such a calm and even demeanor about yourself, and I feel like you've been this way for perhaps as long as I've known you. And you can be both serious and silly, and your intelligence and deep thinking is always evident during each class that you're present in, and every conversation that you have, whether it's with your friends or with your teachers. And you brought this same curiosity and questioning as we talked about your Devar Torah. And as we sat down to talk about your Torah portion, your very long Torah portion, you zeroed in on wanting to focus on the priestly blessing pretty quickly. There were a lot of different stories that you could have talked about, some more interesting and engaging for a 13-year-old than others, but you were really clear that you wanted to do something with the priestly blessing, and then it just took a little bit of time for you to spend some time with it to figure out what that was going to be for yourself. And I want you to know that Cantor Benjamin and I, we say this blessing at least once a week, sometimes even more, and that your insight has really helped me to think about this in a whole new light. And I love this idea of understanding these words. On the one hand, there's something just hugely powerful to me about the fact that this blessing that appears in Torah is something that God told Aaron to bless the people with, and that we still say these words today. And not just in the context of like coming upon them as we're reading in Torah, but we say this as a blessing today. We share this as a blessing. Parents share this as a blessing on Friday night to their children. I offer this as blessings when I'm welcoming babies into the world and into the Jewish community. We offer this blessing on this day as you become bat mitzvah, and I offer this blessing under the chuppah with couples. So this is a really important blessing that we still have in our lives. And I love the idea of sort of thinking about these words as challenging us, not just as kind of receiving a blessing in that moment, but as challenging us to be a force of goodness in the world. And this kind of reinterpretation of our tradition is exactly what we're called to do in every generation, and it is beautiful to see you doing this as you become bat mitzvah. We are not meant to just take every story or every law that we receive at face value and say, oh, okay, and kind of blindly follow these instructions. Instead, we're always meant to wrestle with our tradition and to bring our own questions and sensibilities to whatever it is that we're learning and to whatever it is that comes before us. And it's we're supposed to bring our own knowledge of all of the things in the world, of history, of science, of all the discoveries that we've made, our own logic. And all of that we're supposed to bring and apply to our ancient texts. And this is how our tradition continues to be relevant and to speak to us in every moment and every future generation that comes. So Zoe, as you become bat mitzvah and an adult in our Jewish community, may you continue to find ways to bring blessing, light, graciousness, and favor to the world around you, to all those who are blessed to know you and to be with you. And may you always continue to ask deep questions, challenging yourself and challenging your community. And may you continue to move from strength to strength wherever you go and whatever you do. So Mazel Tov to you and to your entire family. All right. At this time, it is my honor to invite our president, Alana Dunoff, to come forward to present you with a gift from our congregation.
Hi, Zoe. Mazel Tov. Shabbat Shalom. I don't have anything Harry Potter to say. Just to be really clear, that face sort of skipped over our family, so sorry. But Mazel Tov. I really hope you feel great about all of your achievements today. And wow, that was a lot. I remember Sophia going, Mom, I had a lot. There was a lot, but you also had a lot. And Yasher Koach, Lori, like, we have a new Torah reader in the house.
I know.
Like, it was very repetitive. So, Yasher Koach, you really made all of us and your family very proud, and Mazel Tov to your parents and grandparents and all of your extended family. Zoe, you and my daughter Sophia have been classmates since B2BJ preschool. There were quite a few play dates and field trips and school shows right on this very bima, and I think there was some soccer that happened in those early years as well. And as a parent, one of the things that's most amazing is to watch your kids try and explore and do new things. And as I was kind of catching up on kind of who you have become and kind of seeing you grow, to see all the really cool things that you have immersed yourself in, like rock climbing, I did not know that. That's amazing. And the cello and the school newspaper, and hearing and reading about your bat mitzvah project. Wow, what an unbelievable experience that is going to be and is for you already, and an amazing thing to look forward to. So Mazel Tov on that really is something very special. So Zoe, as you become a bat mitzvah today, my wish for you is that you continue to use your curiosity and this really love for adventure and excitement to really make a big difference in the world in small and in big ways. Lori, Andy, we are really very fortunate to have you a part of our family here at B2BJ. And Eli, it won't be long before you're up here on the bima. People are going to start saying, you're next. So that's going to happen. We have the date, right? Yeah, so
Yep.
It's going to go by really fast. So Zoe, on behalf of the B2BJ board and the Religious School Parent Support Group and the Sisterhood and the Men's Club, I'm really honored to present you with your gifts of a Kiddush cup and a Tanakh. May they become part of your continued path in Judaism. Mazel Tov and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Alana.
Yeah, I can let you on.
Okay. I want to invite up your cousins, Brooke and Jesse Weinberg, to offer a reading to you entitled A Wish for You.
A wish for you.
If there would be only one thing in life for us to teach you, we would teach you love.
To respect others so that you may find respect in yourself. To learn the value of giving so that if there comes a time in your life that someone really needs you, you will give.
To act in a manner that you wish to be treated. To be proud of yourself. To laugh and smile as much as you can in order to help bring joy back into the world.
To have faith in others, to be understanding, to stand tall in this world, and to learn to depend on yourself. To learn to appreciate the people who love you, the simple beauty that God gave you, and to find peace and serenity within yourself.
Thank you. And as we move toward the conclusion of our Torah service, we have one more cousin reading. I want to invite Bailey Walinsky to come on up to read Live Each Day to the Fullest.
Live each day to the fullest. Get the most from each hour, each day, and each age of your life. Then you can look forward with confidence and back without regrets. Be yourself, but be your best self. Dare to be different and follow your own star. And don't be afraid to be happy. Enjoy what is beautiful. Love with all your heart and soul. Believe that those you love, love you. Forget what you have done for your friends and remember what they have done for you. Disregard what the world owes you and concentrate on what you owe the world. When you are faced with a decision, make that decision as wisely as possible. Then forget it. The moment of absolute certainty never arises. Blessed is the generation in which the old listen to the young, and double blessed is the generation in which the young listen to the old.
Thank you. We turn in our Sidurim now to page 178 as we recite prayers for the state of Israel and also a prayer for peace. I'll invite you to rise if you're comfortable and able to do so. Do you have your Siddur? You can go back down for a minute.
Okay.
I invite you to join with me on the top of 178 in English, the prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Shabbat Shamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel, that it may be the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace, guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy, and let us say amen. Such a blessing that your family had the opportunity to travel to Israel together. And I know that others are starting to have that experience again, which is wonderful that the world is opening up again in that way so we can safely be able to visit and to create those memories again. I invite you to join with me responsively in the middle of the page with a prayer for peace as we send our blessings for peace both nearby and around the world to all those who are in need of peace at this time. May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world.
The nation will not threaten nation, and the human family will not again know war.
For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love.
Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion.
Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture, I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war.
Let justice and righteousness flow like a mighty stream. Let God's peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea, and let us say, Amen. We turn now to page 183 as we prepare to return our Torah to the Ark. And Zoe, I'll invite you to come on up so you can grab the Torah as we process around the room. And I also want to invite up again Eli, your brother, along with your cousins Owen Walinsky and Bryson Evans Hannon, so that you can be up here to open the Ark when we return with the Torah, so that we can return the Sefer Torah to the Ark. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hello. Shabbat Shalom. I love all your rainbows. You're very rainbow. Nice to meet you. Welcome, welcome. Hello.
Adonai lama boya, Shabbat Shabbat Adonai, Melech le'olam. Adonai Moz v'loyites, Adonai yivarech elamu v'shalom.
Page 184.
Hilkachtot natati lachem, Torati atar zovu, Eitz chaim hi, Lemachazigim ba, V'tom keha, Meyushar, Tirachecha, Darchei Noam, V'chol netivotecha shalom, Hashivenu Adonai, Elecha v'nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu, Kadesh Yameinu, Ekedem.
You may be seated. We continue on page 189 with Yismechu.
Yismechu b'malchutecha,
Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha,
Shomrei, Shomrei,
Shomrei, Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Am Mekadeshem, Mekadeshem Shvi Shabbat. Kulam yismechu, yitangu mitu b'chashabat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat, Oneg Shabbat. Shvi ratzita bo v'kidash Shabbat. Chantag yami oto karata zecher l'maaseh v'reishit. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. We turn to page 204 for Ein Keloheinu. Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kimalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Amilkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru, Avotenu, Lifanecha Ekitoret Hasamim. Page 205. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kigoyei ha'aratzot velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem vigoralenu kechol hamonam va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'ne'emar V'haya Adonai Melech Al Kol Haaretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad. You may be seated. We turn now to page 207 for Kaddish Yatom Mourner's Kaddish. And this week in our community, we observe the yard sites of Ray Barrow, Abraham Brown, Louis Kramer, Esther Fisher, Juliet Fox, Libby Kaner, David Kugler, Abraham Edward Miller, Louis Reeder, Erwin Sandos, Goldie Schwartz, Goldie Shore, Milton Stander, Solomon Weinberg, Janice Wexelblatt, Yaakov Ben Naftali, Edith Kobat, Jack Erzner, Anna Forstatter, Jay Harris, Daniel Kelman, Samuel Littman, Arnold Miller, Jules Rosenberg, Francis Schwartz, Edie Searman, Joseph Shore, Fanny Toll, and Ella Weinstein. On this day of great celebration for your family, Zoe, we also are remembering at this time your great aunt Harriet Stern, and of course your bubby Deborah Schwartz. We know how proud they'd be of you, and how much they would be shepping naches on you in this moment. So I want to invite those who are in mourning, who are observing a yard site, to please rise, along with all those for whom it is your custom to rise in support of the mourners, or for those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, as we recite the words of Kaddish Yatom on page 207. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach li'olam melomei almaya, yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudasha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran v'yama v'imru amen. Yehi shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who dwell on earth, and we say together, amen. May the memory of all those who we are holding in our hearts in this moment forever be a blessing to us and to all who knew them. You may be seated. At this time, it is my great pleasure to invite Zoe to come back on up, along with your parents, Andy and Lori, so that they can offer you some blessings in this moment. And Zoe, I also have for you a bat mitzvah certificate, which says, undertake the study of Torah to make it your own. It is not yours only by inheritance. And we hope that you will do that as you continue to grow as a person and within the Jewish community. And did I get one of the names wrong? Stein. Sorry, Harriet Stein. I apologize. I have poor handwriting sometimes.
I'm not going to cry. You need to make me laugh. That's my job for you. My heart is absolutely bursting.
This is a lot easier to just us at home.
Yes, okay, I have to think about it. We were on the deck last night practicing this. I have to go back there. Okay. Zoe, you were not super anxious to come into this world. You had a very comfortable thing going on in my ginormous belly. Anyone remember those days? I do. But 9 very, very long days after your due date, the doctors decided to take matters into their own hands, and you were forced to make your entrance. I remember at some point, once things calmed down a bit, it was a little crazy, Daddy went home to pick up a couple things, and I just sat there and stared at you. The nurses kept asking me to give you back to them, to do whatever they had to do, clean you up, and I kept asking for a few more minutes. I continued to stare at you in amazement. I couldn't believe that we created such a beautiful little creature, and Daddy and I have been staring at you in amazement ever since.
Zoe, I'm not sure if you remember this, but when you were very young, we took you shopping, we would monitor the entrance of the store for any girls who might walk in who were your age. As soon as you saw a young girl enter, you say, "Mommy, Daddy, I'll be right back. I'm going to go say hi to my new friend." And you leave our side and go talk to the girl. I was amazed by how outgoing and friendly you were, and further amazed that we had produced such a daughter, since that's not something that Lori or I would have ever considered at that age. However, as you grew older, it became clear that it wasn't necessarily about making a new friend, as it was about being adventurous. Zoe, you were a risk taker. Whether it be talking to strangers, albeit those around your age, going on crazy roller coasters that go upside down, climbing up new heights, up a tall rock wall, or going parasailing, something you were begging to do well before any company would allow you to because of your age. You gravitate towards adventure and are fearless.
As many of you know, Reach Climbing Gym is like a second home for us. Daddy and I randomly popped in there one day soon after they opened, and now you're a member of their competition team. Rock climbing has not only made you physically stronger and given you really crazy strong biceps, but it has made you learn what it means to persevere, to tackle challenges that seem impossible, to take hard things one step at a time, and to keep trying different ways to get to the top. I've seen you fall, get back up, just to fall again, but you never give up. And that same drive has crossed over into every aspect of your life. It is so exciting to see you confront your obstacles head on with that same drive and dedication to master it. Who knows what that quality will bring to your future? Who knows what disease you will cure when you become a doctor? What lives you'll make better with your relentless will to just keep trying different ways to succeed.
Zoe, you are extremely curious by nature and have a thirst for knowledge. Multiple times a day you'll blurt out some random fact that you just learned. And it wasn't from the classroom, it wasn't from the textbook, but for your own reading and personal research. Your curiosity and desire to learn will serve you well through life. Who knows, maybe it'll even land you on your favorite game show, Jeopardy, one day. I'm always amazed by the amount of reading you do and the amount of information you have stored in your head. Some of it useless, but many of it very, very useful. But you just love to read. It's an essential part of your day. When many people are going through texts or watching videos before bed, you make sure you go up early enough to be able to read a good book until you fall asleep. Perhaps I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but you've probably read more books in the last month than I've read in the last 5 years.
I think the last 2 days, Andy. The pandemic forced many families to change their lifestyle and caused a lot of heartache, but there was a silver lining. It allowed Daddy and I to spend those months with our favorite people, you and Eli. We used this time to bond and become closer than we were before. We took advantage of this time to become more aware of world events, to play games, and to watch each and every one of the Pitch Perfect movies close to 100 times. They're always on TV. In many ways, we hope to never live through such a period again, but in some very important ways, we wouldn't trade those days for anything. Zoe, we've absolutely loved watching you grow through every phase these past 13 years. I often think that Daddy and I really hit the parenting jackpot, being blessed with you and Eli, and it just seems to keep getting better. I love that you do not seem to be too embarrassed to be seen with me in public. I can still magically turn your deepest frown into a contagious laugh within seconds of trying. Zoe, your Spotify list is totally the vibe. Oh, I'm sorry, is that word too cash? Okay, roll your eyes at me. Go ahead, roll your eyes. I had to, inside joke, I had to get those words in. And she's not going to forgive me.
Zoe, you did an amazing job leading the service today, reading from the Torah. You've accomplished so much in the first 13 years of your life, and we can't wait to see what achievements you'll accomplish and challenges you'll tackle in the coming years. As has become readily apparent through the last hour of the service, no speech to you would be complete without a Harry Potter reference. So your mom and I leave you with this. As Luna Lovegood once said, being different isn't a bad thing. It means you're brave enough to be yourself. May you continue to do you, pursue your passions, follow your dreams, and go from strength to strength. Your mom and I are so proud of you. We love you.
Yeah.
Stay there for 1 second. All of us? That means all of you.
Okay.
Because Cantor Benjamin and I would like, while you're all up here together, to be able to bless you, and perhaps for you to bless one another, and maybe even everyone here, with the words of the priestly blessing. And so if you want to follow along, they are on page 75. Feel free to turn to that page. And if you have loved ones near you, either on the bima or by your side, whether you're in the sanctuary or on live stream, I invite you to put your arms around one another. Eli, you can come on up too if you want, so that you can be a part of this little blessing brigade here. As we both receive this blessing coming at us, and with Zoe's advice, as we also find ways to be that blessing in this moment and in every moment that we find ourselves. May God bless you and protect you. May God's face give light to you and show you favor. May God's face be lifted toward you and bestow upon you peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. And we all say together, Amen.
Amen.
All right. So you can have a seat now if you like. And as we move toward the end of our service, we turn back to page 211 for Adon Olam.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach, B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra,
Li'et Nasa, V'Hafsakol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'Yacharei Kifotako, Levado Yimloch Nara Adon Olam, V'Hu Haya, V'Hu Hoveh, V'Hu Yeh B'Tzipara Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, V'Hafsakol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'Hu Echad, V'Yein Sheni, Lehamshelo Lehachbira Adon Olam, V'li Reshit, V'li Tachlit, V'lo Ha'oz V'Hamisra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, V'Hafsakol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'Hu Eli, V'Chai Go'ali, V'Tzur Chavli B'Yitzara Adon Olam, V'Hu Nisi, Umanos Li, Menachasi B'Yom Mikra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, V'Hafsakol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, B'Yado Akid Ruchi, B'Yet Tishan V'A'ira Adon Olam, B'Him Ruchi, Geviati, Adonai V'Lo Yira Adon Olam. So, following our Kiddush and Motzi, you're all invited to join us in the lobby for our Kiddush and our Oneg. Walinsky's, if you would like to come on back up one more time so that y'all can help lead us in Kiddush and Motzi for the entire community, we would love to have you up here. Yeah. It's grape juice.
Pray,
Amen. So he would.
The great reveal.
I said, ha. Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov once again.
And for all the kids, we will have a bus taking everyone to the party.
Not me.